Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all that sorts of good stuff. And I am, of course, joined today by the one and the only, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
You know, just when I thought that songs from Frozen would be out of my mind, they pull me right back in.
Oh, let it go, Robert. Let it go. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, me and Robert. And oh, yeah, by the way, we are also joined by Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Happy hump day, everyone. Good to see ya.
And it is indeed hump day today. It is Wednesday, and we are so glad you're here. We got, but just so you guys know, there's a bunch of moving going on at the Stream Studios. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing the John Campea Show from the home studios. And I've obviously got Ashley here, and I've got Robert here with me. And guys, we've got a bunch of things that we're going to talk about here, getting to your questions that you've sent in. But before we get to that stuff, let's talk about this. Dropping this morning, now we know Frozen 2 is coming, and we know it's going to be a big box office juggernaut, but the Frozen 2 trailer dropped this morning, and I'm going to tell you what, it did not look, like if you had asked me, guys, what will this Frozen 2 trailer look like? What do you think we're going to see? And I would say something like, the girls are going to be singing, and there's going to be birds flying, and Olaf the snowman is going to be doing something whimsical. And that is simply not what we got. We got something that looked very different. Like, we got something that looked incredibly different to that. Robert, you had a chance to see this Frozen trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, I first of all, the music that was playing at the beginning of the trailer got me. I was like, this is like epic action adventure something. And I really love that whole opening sequence when she's trying to get through the waves. I'm like, this is really cool. I really liked it. And then, of course, you know, it went into the more of the standard traditional montage-y stuff. But I'm like, this is not, just like you, this was not what I expected. But I was very intrigued by it. And I'm in. I'm in. There was no Olaf in it at all, was there?
I think there was a little bit of a shot of Olaf like standing beside one of the characters, but no dialogue or anything.
Nothing. Yeah, I mean it was not what I expected at all.
Ashley, you had a chance to see it. What did you think about it?
I just kept thinking Sub-Zero wins. Like she's like literally, like she's turned into a Mortal Kombat character. I loved it. It was like dark and intriguing, and I'm totally gonna see it.
Now, the one thing that really stood out to me about it was it had, well, I mean, look, first of all, visually, it's clearly darker, right? Visually, it is a darker looking trailer than we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing with something Frozen, whether it's the main film or whether it's the little Olaf shorts, these bright, vivid colors, all this kind of stuff, and it would just nail. So it's visually darker, but also its tone is darker. I mean,
yeah.
And now this is a very, very overused phrase in film commentary, but it had an epic, it felt like a film epic.
Definitely.
It had that epic feeling to it, whether it's, you know, the one girl on, like, is she stranded on that island and she's trying to get off? Is she trying to rescue somebody? Then, you know, we see the other sister, like, sitting, looking kind of depressed in a cave. And then for some reason, it looks like the girls are on this quest to find Canada, because at the very end, this giant maple leaf flies into screen, which I thought was kind of interesting, but it carried a much more serious, darker tone. Rob, let me ask you this. Do you think that this is signaling to us that the movie itself will have a darker tone, or do you think they just did that for the trailer? How do you see it?
Well, I don't know how much darker you can go on Frozen and have it to still be Frozen. You know, it's not like Frodo has to carry the ring to the crack of doom. But it did feel more epic. And I'll tell you, I mean, I think for anybody who has kids or anybody, you know, Frozen is like the ultimate earworm of a movie. You can't even think the word Frozen in your mouth or in your head without songs coming out of your mouth. And you can't. I mean, it's like impossible. So I think it was interesting and probably a good idea that we got something that was a little different. And I'm intrigued. I'm like, wow, okay, I'll go see that. I will not let it go.
It reminded me a little bit of when Belle is on her horse chasing to find her dad from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's
that
a good
type of it has that exact same feel to me.
That's a good analogy of it. All right, guys. Well, listen, before we get to the first email of the day, there was another little something that kind of came out and dropped, and that is this. James Cameron, all right?
Uh-oh.
James Cameron, who, he has said, first of all, brilliant filmmaker, unbelievable, the not one, but the two top box office films of all time, with Avatar and Titanic. You can't give this guy enough respect, clearly. But he has said some really stupid things in the past. Like, I remember when he went after Wonder Woman and everybody got upset. And he's just said some really stupid things that I have taken him to task on. Many people have taken him to task on because we haven't appreciated those sorts of things. Well, guess what? James Cameron doesn't care if we want to take him to task, because he was being asked about, Aquaman. He was being asked about Aquaman, and, if he felt that James Wan was now kind of in the conversation with James Cameron. You know what I mean? If the Jameses are in the same conversation now. And what he thought. And in classic James Cameron style, he gave a very backhanded compliment that started friendly and then turned kind of trashing. And here's what James Cameron had to say. He said the following. He said, talking about Aquaman, I think it's great fun. I never could have made that film because it requires this kind of total dreamlike disconnect from any sense of physics or reality. People just kind of zoom around underwater because they propel themselves mentally, I guess. I don't know. But it's cool. You buy it on its own terms. Come back when you hit, go talking about the James Wan comparison, come back when you hit your second billion and you're well on your way to your third. Then we'll talk. Again, Cameron says, come back when you hit not 1 billion, but 2 billion. And oh, by the way, a couple of them at 2 billion and well on your way to your third. And then we'll talk. All right. So that's James Cameron's kind of thoughts on this and on Aquaman. Rob, you hear him talking like this. You hear him giving this kind of statement. What's the first reaction you have?
God love James Cameron. I mean, I'm a huge James Cameron fan, but he's been doing the research and development for the entire film industry for the last 30 years. I mean, ever since he created had ILM make the pseudopod for the Abyss that we talked about, which led to T2, which led to everything he's done up to now. And when he wants to dive down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, he does that for real. And when he was making the Abyss, he's like, yeah, why don't we build all of our sets in this unfinished nuclear reactor and we'll fill it up with water and we'll do it for real. I mean, he's in a whole different league. And I think in a way, like, I'm always going on about verisimilitude. Somebody called me the gatekeeper of verisimilitude the other day. I'm like, God, I love that. But that's what James Cameron has strived for, is that ultimate realism. And I think, obviously the oceans are something very close to his heart. And when he went and saw Aquaman, he immediately had to disassociate any of his mental faculties with watching the movie, because there was not a shred of reality in it.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But on the other hand, he did say, that it was fun and that he enjoyed it. He didn't trash James Wan or any of the filmmakers for making something that's completely divorced from reality. But that was kind of the point, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if you go the entire other direction, you're not looking for verisimilitude, that's okay.
It's funny because he kind of did the same thing that he did with Wonder Woman. Oh, yeah, it's good, but it's garbage. Well, I mean, just the way it's like, oh, no, great fun. Yeah, I mean, I've spent thousands of hours underwater and nothing looks like that. And if you want to suspend disbelief and watch that tripe, sure, it's good, it's fine. But I'll tell you what. I was really... as just a movie fan, I was as pissed off at James Cameron's comments about Wonder Woman pretty much as anybody else. But I'll say that I'm actually going to give James Cameron a pass on this. I'm going to give him a pass on this because, on the one hand, no, there are very few people. No, let me go so far as to say this. There is nobody, guys, nobody in the film industry today, not one, that has the authority to speak about what underwater is like,
right,
than James Cameron. There's nobody can say I know, no, because Cameron has literally, and it wasn't just Titanic. He's done all of his undersea documentary and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this guy spent more time underwater maybe than Aquaman. I mean, so he can speak to that. And you know what? When he puffs out his chest when somebody's trying to compare him to James Wan, and he gives the come back and talk to me when you've hit your second billion and well on your way to doing it for a third time. Guess what? You can go, that's kind of a dick thing that. But you are the one who is permitted to say that because you are the one who has hit 2 billion not once but twice and hold the top 2 spots. And so there's a little bit of Dwayne Johnson in there. You know what? Was it a little dickish for him to say? Maybe. But I'm going to give him a bit of a pass.
But if I were James Wan, I'd go, listen, dude, my last movie, one of my last movies did gross 1.5 billion. That would be Furious 7. So I've made 2 movies that gross billion.
But none of them that have hit 2 billion. And Cameron has done it twice. That's why he's like, oh, that's adorable, your 1 billion film. Talk to me when you've hit the second billion. Talk to me when you've hit that. And did you, the last little thing he said there, by the way, let me bring this up again. This last little thing he puts in there, because this is now him talking about his upcoming Avatar film. He goes, and you're well on your way to your third. Then you talk. So this is Cameron basically saying, kid, I've got $2 billion films. By my math, that makes me twice as good as you. And oh, by the way, my next film's going to hit $2 billion, which I don't think it will. I don't think his next film's going to hit $2 billion. I think maybe if they released Avatar 2 4 years ago, maybe, but I think it's going to make a buttload of money. It's going to make a huge amount of money, no doubt. I don't think it'll hit $2 billion, but anything is possible in this business, as we have seen.
If I was James Wan, I would say, let's see what the box office for Battle Angel Alita is next Monday.
Well, yeah, but he didn't direct it.
I know, but
he didn't direct Battle Angel Alita, so he was like, whatever, kid. I've got the #1 all-time box office film. Oh, and the #2 all-time box office film. Where are your films in the top 5? But, you know, again, I don't think he's trashing James Wan. I just think he's doing a little bit of Dwayne Johnson-isms. I think he's just doing a little bit of wrestling kind of terminology there.
Yeah, it's like a playful pissing contest is all that's happening.
Yeah, I don't take anything too deadly serious about it. I just thought it was fun. And, like, I gave him a lot of shit for the Wonder Woman comments. But on this one, I personally give him a pass. So let's see if anything else. What do you guys think about that? Do you think James Cameron was totally cool to say something like that and it's all in fun, or does it bother you as much as it did the Wonder Woman thing? Jump down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that out of the way, it's time for us to move on to the first email today. So, Ashley, what is our first email today?
First email is from Patreon supporter Amin Mashayeki. Okay, we need to talk about this new Danny Boyle film Yesterday. I wasn't even aware of the film and I just saw the trailer and I have to say I am excited. I think the trailer was so great and the storyline is so neat and I'm really looking forward to it. What do you think of the trailer and are you interested in the film?
I'll tell you what, guys, I was pretty much unaware of this film. I mean, I knew it was coming. I had heard about it. We talked about it. But I think, Beatles. By the way, I'm one of the few people in the world who's not a big Beatles fan. I really don't care about the Beatles that much, which always, I mean, if Scott Mantz packed a knife, he would probably be drawing it every time I say that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Beatles. But
I was going to say, I hear Scott Mantz crying right now.
I can hear him screaming somewhere in the world right now. Yeah. Not a big Beatles fan, so didn't care all that much. Watch the trailer, though. I'll tell you what. This trailer is pretty awesome. You hear the concept. Okay, a guy wakes up and all of a sudden the world never heard of the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And he can play the Beatles songs and become famous. So like, okay, that's interesting. But you watch the trailer and watch how it kind of plays out. And as I was watching it and watching it playing out, they put the perfect stuff in the trailer. Because, there's always a question about, okay, which elements and which parts do you want to put in the trailer, which parts do you not? But that whole scene when he's sitting down at the table with his friends and playing, I can't remember which song, it was Yesterday. He was playing Yesterday, and everybody's saying, wow, that's nice. Did you write it? And his it's just completely confounded by it. I thought that was really, really great. So Robert, you had a chance to see this trailer. What do you think about it?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, to me, it's such a great fantasy premise. I mean, it's got the really same allure of like a time travel movie, like somebody goes back in time and erases you from existence or something. And the idea, and the people haven't disappeared, and they've got that scene where he's like on the James Corden show, and well, here's two guys who said they really wrote these songs. And
yeah, and is it Paul and Ringo, or is this? Yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll find out.
Yeah, the premise to me is irresistible, and never bet against Danny Boyle. I mean, it didn't really do anything here, but I love Trainspotting. But I loved Trainspotting 2. I thought Trainspotting 2 is one of the greatest sequels ever made. Nobody saw it, but I mean, whether he's making Slumdog Millionaire, and part of the reason that he left Bond 25 was because he was working on this film, and he's like, if I can't do what I want to do, then I'm not going to do Bond 25, which bummed me out. But this movie looks wonderful, wonderful. Can't wait.
Ashley, you had a chance to see this trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, I'm a huge Beatles fan. I have all of their vinyls. Yes, Rob, I have vinyl. Leave me alone.
You millennial.
I mean, my vinyl are your Blu-rays, okay? But I have probably I don't know, 10 Beatles albums, and I grew up with them, so I'm very excited. I didn't even know this movie was happening, and I just saw the trailer this morning, and it's kind of funny because the premise seems like something like that I would think of for like a sketch, like, oh, what if, and it's amazing that they actually went through with it and made this movie happen. And then I loved the construction of the trailer. It got me hooked right away, and all the characters seem delightful, and I think it's going to be a hit. So I'm excited.
So all across the board, we're all saying thumbs up for this trailer, yes?
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine how much they had to spend to get the rights to all those Beatles songs?
That's probably the whole budget.
To be the person singing them.
that had to be the whole budget. All right, let's move on to email number 2. What's next, Ashley?
Next is Patreon supporter Chris Habersack. The first official trailer for the J.R.R. Tolkien biopic finally dropped online. As a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I've been really looking forward to this film. After watching the trailer, I'm even more excited. Nicholas Hoult looks great as a young Tolkien, and I definitely got a magical Lord of the Rings feeling from the trailer. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a trailer, Rob, this is a movie that's been finished and sitting on the shelf for a while.
Yeah.
This is a movie that's actually been sitting on the shelf to the point that I remember a couple of months ago, we even talked about, is this movie ever going to get released, or is it going to get dumped on Netflix or whatever? Apparently they're moving forward with it at this point. You had a chance to see this trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, when I worked on both the Lord of the Rings, the extended versions, and then I worked on Chronicles of Narnia. So
yes, you did.
I did a lot of reading about they had a society. They were all, Tolkien was a philologist. He studied languages, and he was a professor at Oxford. And so he was there with C.S. Lewis, and it's not like these guys, the Avengers. they sat around and talked about letters and books and words, and I'm watching there's these fantasy sequences, and I'm like, this, it's one thing to imagine the worlds of Middle Earth, but I don't think Tolkien went outside of his house and ran around thinking he was slaying dragons like Don Quixote with his buddy Sancho Panza. It looked weird to me. Nicholas Holt's a great actor. I've loved him ever since I saw him first in About a Boy, and of course I love him in the X-Men movies. And it looked to me like they're trying to turn it into something that it isn't. I mean, I'll still watch the movie because I want to see it, but I'm like, what is this? Is this a Tolkien biopic, or are we going to see it's a fantasy movie where he goes in? It's like The Fisher King when Robin Williams thought of himself as a knight,
Well, you know what it reminds me of? Do you remember not the one with not Christopher Robin, but Goodbye Christopher Robin, which also came out a little bit over a year ago, where they showed in the trailers the guy who wrote Winnie the Pooh for his kid, he saw war, and there was something about his experience in war to bring joy back into the world, right? The way I interpreted the trailer with all the fantasy stuff was that I'm thinking, because remember, they lived, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien lived in incredible times. And I have a feeling, well, the way I interpreted the trailer at any rate, was the notion that it was things going on in the world, and then that how he then transposed that,
absolutely,
and in a way to telling it in fantasy, because you saw that imagery of war, and then something fantasy kind of then layered on top of it, and things like that, and then his friends at Cambridge, standing around there and talking about fellowship, and then of course our minds go immediately to the hobbits in Fellowship of the Ring and stuff like that. So I thought it was intriguing. Was it something that blew me away and made me go, oh my God, I can't wait to see this and this? Not really. Did it give me any real sense about where are they going with this movie? No. Did it tell me what angle of J.R. Tolkien's life are we going to be looking at? No. What it just told me was, hey, guys, this is a movie about the dude who made Lord of the Rings. Isn't that great?
Right.
And it's on that level, I found a little bit frustrating. Cool to see that's finally there, but I don't know if it worked terribly great as a trailer. Do you?
Yeah, no. I was sort of I wanted to see more of him in the real world. Like, what did he have to say, and what is his philosophy? Because part of the thing that always interested me learning about him is that he saw a lot of Middle Earth was based on how he saw the natural world, especially the English countryside being destroyed by the combustion engine, building roads for cars, these newfangled contraptions with these engines in them, and trees getting cut down, and the quaint villages and the beauty of the natural world that surrounded him that was so important to him. He saw the encroaching industrialization as something as a real threat. And I wanted to hear more of him railing about that kind of stuff. Like, not that I don't know if that's great for a 2-hour movie or that you could put in a trailer, but I'm sure a lot of that's there. But yeah, I mean, I'll go see this. I'll watch any movie to learn about Tolkien or I think they should make biopics of every one of my favorite writers.
All right.
A Stephen King movie. I want to see that.
I'm excited about Lily Collins.
I think it's coming.
Oh, and Lily Collins again.
Well, you know what's funny about the Lily Collins thing, and I am aghast that I didn't bring this up when we were talking about the Yesterday trailer. Well, yesterday, we've got 2 trailers with 2 Lilies. We got Lily James. We got Lily James in the Yesterday trailer, and then we got the other Lily Collins. And yes, no coincidence, it's actually Phil Collins' daughter. She's in this, and I'm anxious to see both of them because I think they're both great. I like watching both of these.
Lily Collins, I saw To the Bone, and I got to see the director speak. Not a lot of people saw that movie, and it is so good. It's very emotional. She actually, she's struggling with an eating disorder in it, and she loses all that weight in real life. And I heard her speak about it, and she was saying that she actually struggled in real life with an eating disorder. And then this movie, To the Bone, was kind of a therapeutic way to face her demons about it. And which I thought might be kind of dangerous. But anyway, she went into it, and it was a fantastic movie. It was really touching. And a lot of it was based on a true life story from her. Wow. So,
all right.
I have to say, Lily James, it's like there's the one scene when she's like, I'm a school teacher, and I've tried to make you love me my whole life. I'm like, that wouldn't have been a problem for me.
Nope, no issue. None whatsoever. She's supposed
to look frumpy? I'm like, come on.
All right, let's move on to the next email. What's next?
Mike, hey, John, Zack Snyder revealed a new image of the Flash from the original Snyder cut ending of Justice League recently. My question is, why is he continuing to release photos and such from his version of the movie if there is no intent on releasing a Zack Snyder cut to the public?
I mean, look, we've talked about this a little bit before in the sense that I really think Zack Snyder, I mean, I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder. I think he's one of the great visual storytellers in the industry. He's made some fantastic movies, and I will always be in his debt for making Man of Steel, one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. But I've said before, I think he needs to back off the Warner Brothers, Justice League, DC stuff when it comes to his social media. Now, what should be pointed out, though, is that he used this picture of Flash, and we'll talk about the picture in a second. He used this image of Flash as a vehicle, if you will, to talk about this charity campaign of selling shirts for charity and all that kind of stuff. And for that, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. Was there a better way to do it than using a Flash picture? Probably. But would it get as much attention if he had done something other than using a Flash picture? Maybe not. So this may be one of those situations where maybe that might have been an actually pretty okay thing to do. But let's talk about this picture here for a second. So on one hand, you can say, well, what's the big deal? Okay, maybe this wasn't a scene from the movie. We haven't seen this picture before. He's standing there, blah, blah, what's the big deal? Here's the interesting thing. Here's Flash. Take a look at the picture now, everybody. Take a look at the picture. Now, here's the Flash from the movie. Take a good look. Now let's go back to the Flash picture that Snyder put up. If you're wondering what's different, look at the lightning bolt now. Look at this lightning bolt of an image not seen in the movie. And now look at this official one that he was. There's an extra zigzag. There's an extra little zigzag in the flash symbol. So what this has led a lot of people to speculate about is that this may have been a camera test. Is that this may have been, because some people think, oh, it's from the end of the movie, although I don't know how that makes any sense that he has, wait, it's a completely different costume that's totally the same as the other costume, just as, I think this was probably, my guess at this point, Robert, at any rate, is that this is probably just a costume test, and that's why there's the difference in the lightning bolt. They probably thought better of it later, changed it up, and then shot the movie. So I think this is from pretty early on, just testing stuff out, wasn't actually filmed. I don't know that for sure, but that's how I interpret it. How do you see that?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that S on the shot he released looks like from the SS. It looks like a Nazi, and the extra.
Well, it's a lightning bolt, Robert. It's not an S. It doesn't mean hope.
But the third zing gives it, there's no question it's a lightning bolt. It's a little
zing.
The zing. It's got that extra little zhuzh on the zing. So it looks good. I mean, I do love the fact that Zack Snyder's sort of trolling Warner Brothers with these shots. I mean, I do like it. I mean, yes, I think he probably should back off, but I do appreciate it because he doesn't actually come out and say anything, but he doesn't have to. You've got all the hashtags release the Snyder Cut fanboys screaming bloody murder every time he puts one out. And he's got to take some satisfaction from that.
I do.
I take satisfaction for him.
See, I think in this circumstance, because he's using the popularity of the character to further a charitable cause, I think that gives it a pass on this. But I have expressed before, as a fan of Zack Snyder, I fear a little bit that the trolling of Warner Brothers and all that kind of stuff. Look, he hasn't made a movie in a while. He's finally able to do one coming up, but it's being relegated to Netflix. I just don't want to see, what I do not want to have happen is Zack Snyder paint himself in a corner where other studios look at him and go, oh, so if we work with you and things don't go well, you're going to start trolling us and bad-mouthing us? We don't want to work with you. I just don't want him to be in that position. But I think, again, because of the charitable angle of this, I think that gives this one a pass. I think that gives this one a pass, and I think it's pretty good. All right, let's move on to the next email. What's next?
Next up is Tyler Cox. Many people were expecting a full trailer for Avengers Endgame to come during the Super Bowl, but with the Super Bowl in the rear view and no substantial trailer with only a little over 2 months to release, the window is getting smaller. I think it's possible we get one with the Oscars since it's airing on ABC, or we don't get one till Captain Marvel releases, maybe even as the post-credits scene. Which do you think is more likely, or do you think either is likely at all?
I'll tell you what, this is why this is really interesting that I got this email, because I actually had a pretty interesting phone call about 2 weeks ago, maybe, from somebody connected to the situation who said to me, as of about a month ago, there was serious talk about releasing the bang trailer, if you will, of Avengers Endgame with the Oscars. And I kind of dismissed it because honestly I thought that makes no sense. You've got Captain Marvel coming out just 2 weeks after that. It makes no sense. Why would you do a trailer like that for the Oscars? It doesn't make any sense. But then I started thinking about it, Robert. I started thinking about it. The Oscars are being broadcast on ABC.
Yep.
Who owns ABC? Disney. Disney owns ABC. Okay. What is the one television event, despite declining ratings over the last couple of years, what is the largest television event other than the Oscars this year? What's going to be the largest event this year on television?
Let me think. The Oscars?
The Oscars? So you're going to have more eyeballs on the Oscars than just about anything else. It's being done by ABC. If you're trying to find a way to get more people to tune into the Oscars, what better way is there than, say, 5 days before the Oscars to put out a tweet on the official Twitter channel saying, hey, guys, make sure you tune into the Oscars for something a little avenging, something stupid like that. And the reality is, it is only 2 weeks separated from Captain Marvel, so you can still put this trailer in front of Captain Marvel when it hits theaters 2 weeks later. And we are getting into that real tight window. When February, I believe it's February 24th is when the Oscars are this year. When we get to February 24th this year, we're getting pretty close. We're getting pretty close to the movie itself. And at that time, and at that point, you got to think, you got to release something big. And so while I guffawed at the idea at first, when it was mentioned to me, I got to say, the more I think about it, I got to say, it would be stupid not to do this. I mean, you're Disney, you're controlling the broadcast. You want people to watch the Oscars. It's going to have tens of millions of eyeballs on it. What better way to make a splash than that? So I don't know, Robert, am I reading too much into this, or do you think there's a possibility they could drop like what we're calling the bang Avengers Endgame trailer with the Oscars, or do you think they'll hold out for a couple more weeks and release it closer to the release of Captain Marvel?
You know, your logic is sound. I mean, I could see them releasing a bang trailer, but with the Oscars. But honestly, if I was Disney, I mean, look, normally we now live in a world where people just drop trailers online, and they talk about it. 225 million people watched it in 24 hours. Well, with the Oscars, you could double that in one fell swoop if you wanted to. So I think it's a possibility. I think you're absolutely right. However, I think they're also, I think they're going to hold off till Captain Marvel. I really do, because they've got more riding on Captain Marvel. You know, they're introducing a new character, and I think that they're gonna release the trailer the same weekend, maybe, or if not the day before, as Captain Marvel, and make that weekend marvelous. You know?
Marvel us. But here's the one thing, though, Robert. Here's why I'm thinking. There was a time back in the Phantom Menace days when people would buy a ticket to a movie just to watch a trailer that's going to play in front of it.
Oh, I went and saw The Siege for a second time because the Phantom Menace trailer was in front of it.
Wow.
I bought it. I'm not going to lie. I bought a few movie tickets that I didn't stick around for the movies. I bought a few movie tickets. I'd go to the box office. Is the Phantom Menace trailer playing in front of this movie? No? How about this one? Yes. One ticket, please.
That's amazing.
Yep.
You say amazing. Some people would call it sad, but and it may have been a little bit of both. Yep, it was both. There was a little bit of both in there, no doubt. But Rob, the thing is, those days are gone. People aren't buying their tickets to see. Like, here's the difference between the Oscar situation and Captain Marvel. People are not going to buy a ticket to Captain Marvel just to watch the Endgame trailer, because they can watch it online anytime.
Right.
But they will tune into the Oscars to watch the Endgame trailer, because you know what? You know how many idiots out there like me sat down and watched the Video Game Awards just because the Russo brothers were presenting at it, and so there might have been some Avengers stuff? A lot of people. You let it be known that at the Oscars, so they're not going to buy tickets to go see Captain Marvel just for the trailer, but they will tune into the Oscars just to see the trailer. And I think, remember, Disney's had this kind of pattern before, right? Disney, remember back when Ultron was coming out, they tried to leverage the trailer for the upcoming trailer for Ultron to get more people to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Do you remember that?
I do.
And now, of course, their plans got thwarted because it got leaked online early, so they had to release it before the show. But we have seen that Disney has precedent to say, we have a broadcast coming up that we want to promote, and we want to leverage a popular trailer we have to push eyeballs to that broadcast. They did it then. There's nothing saying they wouldn't want to try to use that again now. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say the first full bang trailer of Avengers Endgame is going to be the Oscars. I don't think there's any need to wait for it for Captain Marvel. I don't think there's any benefit in waiting till Captain Marvel. I think they're going to drop this thing during the Oscars. I really do.
Well, I hope so, because if they, whatever they can show me, I'm gonna tell you a secret.
Oh, time.
Last night, you know what I did before I drifted off to sleep?
I don't know that any of us here want to know the answer to this, Robert.
I'm going to tell you, I watched the first 20 minutes of Infinity War on Netflix. I kid you not. It was like, I was just zipping around, and I could just watch that Ebony Maw all day long. Why'd they have to kill him? I love that. I love that. I love when Spider-Man gets his Iron Spider suit.
No, no, no.
Yes.
No. To
Why?
hell with the Iron Spider suit. Ugh.
So
Ugh.
great.
Yeah, Spider-Man's not cool. You know how we make him cool? Make him Iron Man. Yeah, I hate
Look,
that.
if he didn't have that suit, he would have died. He would have.
No, they just would have written it different. They only wrote that way, so they put a use to the spider suit. He would have been fine.
Dude, that
he would have
hot
been
toy.
fine.
Oh,
We could argue about this all day. Okay, let's move on to the final email of the day. Ashley, what's the final email today?
Last one is from Francis Ventu. Hey, John and crew, epic rant yesterday on the Oscar situation. Speaking of which, have you seen the nominees for those categories are speaking out about it, and they seem pretty pissed off. I know you don't like anyone giving a sense of entitlement, but do you think they were justified in expressing their frustration?
All right, well, look, I'm not going to, waylay again into the whole thing. But a quick summary. So, for those of you who did not hear, the Oscars announced that they're going to move some of the awards, 4 of the awards, to being presented during the commercial breaks, which I think in principle is a good idea to shorten up the show. And they announced that those ones would be, I think it's short live action. Yeah, short live action, hair and makeup, both those make sense, and editing and cinematography, 2 of the pillars of filmmaking. They decided to move those over. Now, understandably, a couple of people have now been really pissed off, including 6-time Academy Award nominee cinematographer who still never won one, Caleb Deschanel. And he's nominated this year, and he said this. He said, I find it depressing that they're doing this. Cinematography predates writing, directing, editing, music, and sound. Movies started with a guy cranking a camera, a cinematographer. Also, another cinematographer who's been nominated for Best Cinematography this year, and he's got an Oscar or 2 on his mantle, Alfonso Cuarón, who is, of course, nominated for Roma, and he's the cinematographer for Roma and the director of Roma. And he said this, Alfonso said this, and I thought this was pretty poignant. He said, in the history of cinema, masterpieces have existed without sound, without color, without a story, without actors, and without music. No one single film has ever existed without cinematography and without editing. No one single film has ever existed without cinematography and without editing. So I'm looking at these comments, and first of all, I just think, well, damn right. Damn right that's true. And, I already expressed yesterday, I just don't understand how anybody can come to this conclusion. By the way, we have this, for those of you wondering, who are in charge of the Oscars? Who's the governing board of the Oscars? Well, we have a picture of the 2019 governing board of the Oscars. There they are. So this collection of, geniuses got together and decided, hey, what are the least important things that nobody cares about? Oh, the very pillars of our entire industry. Let's cut those ones out. And you notice that not a lot of people are coming out and complaining about live short. Okay, yeah, move that one to commercial break. Hair and makeup. Okay, move that. Not diminishing those things at all, but the average home audience doesn't really care about them. Fine. And here's the other thing that really stood out to me, though, Rob, when I was reading these comments and thinking about these comments was that the Oscar nominees, Rob, got announced prior to the announcement that they're moving these categories to the commercial break. Mm-hmm. To me, that is another level of a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing if you had announced a month and a half ago, hey guys, the upcoming, we got the nominees being announced in a few weeks, but we're going to let you know this is, now it still would have been bad. That still would have been bad. But at least when the nominees found out that they were nominees, they would already know in advance. This was, hey, everybody, you're invited to the party. Oh, but you're not allowed in the VIP section. Oh, you're invited to the party, but you have to hang out in the parking lot. To me, that's that's something they should have thought about. And it just seems like yet another dimension that makes this whole thing just icky. That's my best word for it. This is just icky and moronic and stupid. And this is the Academy is a bunch of clowns. And I don't know. But anyway, Rob, you hear those quotes, you read those. How do you respond to that? What do you think about them?
Well, on a larger level, I kind of feel like this is a perfect example of everything that's wrong in our culture, but in a small microcosm. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, it's first world problems. But you know what it is? there's a fundamental lack of respect that permeates everything. And there's no one, it's like students now talk back to teachers. When I was a kid, you would never talk back to a teacher or
in my day.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that it's not just because I'm an old, get off my lawn. I'm like, you're not giving. The Oscars in itself is supposed to be respectful and reverential about the art of filmmaking. The art in general, being reverential of art in general, is really a product of having an elevated civilization. And suddenly, we're now chipping away at the very foundations of what cinema is by saying, oh, we can relegate those people who are involved in editing and cinematography. They're not as important as the actors or the directors, when really that's not true. Film is holistic. You can't like suddenly decide like, okay, this person is less important than this person, or that discipline is less important than that. Filmmaking is truly a collaborative art that requires, it's multidisciplinary. You know, you can't suddenly make editors and cinematographers less important. Otherwise you either honor all filmmaking or you don't honor it at all. You can't just go in and do it half-assed, because that way you're going to just chip away and eventually you're just going to have the actors. Because really, isn't that what all anybody cares about seeing, is those actors and celebrities who, by the way, work on a film for the least amount of time? It's everything wrong in our culture, to me. I know it's just a little microcosm, but I think it's really, really, really bad. And it's this kind of thing that permeates every facet of our culture. And I hate it.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Get rid of cinematography and put in like a Kardashian award? I mean, it's freaking terrible. And Alfonso basically said exactly what you guys said yesterday on the show, almost like word for word. I just think it's a crisis. And who are these people that are voting this way? I want to know how many people, what they actually do day to day. Like, are they even working in film at this point? Who is voting on this?
Well, I'm sure it's probably the governing board of the Academy, and they all are film professionals. But I just can't wrap my head around, how does anybody go, hey, I got an idea. Okay, it gets passed around. Hey, guys, the public, everybody agrees the show is too long. The show is too long. We need to tighten it up. We need to shorten it up. Okay, fine. Let's, we have a bunch of awards that we award on a different night. Instead of taking categories we have now and moving them to a different night, let's still give them out during the presentation and announce who the winners are, but maybe move a couple to commercial break. Okay. So we've got a few things on the table here. Short documentary. Sure, yeah, nobody, like the people watching at home have no idea about these categories. They have no idea about these nominees. None of the people at home have seen these films. Okay. Short live action. Yeah, okay. Hair and makeup. Hey, they're important people, but, maybe we can move that. How did somebody then go, how about cinematography? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Like, I'll just never understand how, I'll just never understand how this group of people then go, oh, yeah, cinematography. You know what? While we're at it, how about editing? Yeah, let's relegate that one too. I will never understand that. I just can't get it.
You just hit the nail on the head. The problem is the people, the governing body, were making decisions based on their own ideas of what's important and what isn't. They're saying like, well, they're not celebrities. Like, who cares about seeing those people? Like, let's not see those people because they don't have. I mean, the real irksome thing about this is that the people at the top who should be making these decisions are the ones making these decisions. And they're the ones that said they made this decision in the first place, which leads me to believe that the leadership is ridiculously inane. It's like when I hear people talking about, let's take away healthcare for everyone because healthcare isn't a right. You're like, who is even thinking that way? Who is making this decision it's so inane and stupid. It makes the whole fabric of society it's encapsulated in this little moment. I mean, when the people who are making the decisions are making such demonstrably stupid decisions, you're like, get these people the fuck out of here.
Listen,
why are they here?
It's not to rehash an older issue, but we do have to keep in mind, this is the same group of clowns that tried to sneak in a best popular film category out there. This is that same group of incompetent morons. Now, and I'm sorry, but if I'm an Academy member at this point, I'm looking at our existing leadership and saying, we need a vote. I pull a Padme Amidala. We need a vote of no confidence. Like this is a crisis for the Academy, that we have this leadership in place that even proposed the idiotic idea of a best popular movie category, and now they're doing this. We have got to get these people out of leadership of our organization because they're making a mockery of who we are and running us into the ground, and this has got to change. And
Wait, are you talking about the Academy or somebody else? Because it seems strangely familiar to me.
Odd? Does it seem odd? I mean, again, I was just saying somebody in the Academy needs to pull a Padme Amidala.
Also, the general audience does care about the cinematographers, and they
yes,
like, you know, it's not just like film people. It's, I mean, my friends would like. I mean, cinematography is a huge nomination. It's director, cinematographer, actor, actress. Like those.
But by the way. And the Academy themselves rank them as some of the major awards. Because when you go to their nominee list, they always put an order of importance. And cinematography and editing are always way up there. But you know what, guys? I'm going to make a prediction here. My prediction is this. I believe for a second time, the Academy is going to backtrack on this. And I think just like they came out and say, we're doing best popular movie. Boo. Okay, we're not doing a best popular movie. We're cutting out cinematography and editing. You're stupid. Okay, we're not. I think between now and February 20th, we're going to hear the Academy goes, due to overwhelming demand, we're going to put these ones back in. And that's going to be egg in their face. And again, I just think if I'm an Academy member, I need these people out. I need these people who are governing the body right now out, because they are a pack of clowns.
It reminds me of Seinfeld for a second when Kramer's calling in the movie phone and he's like, why don't you just tell me the name of the movie that you want to see?
That was a great episode, by the way.
Also, let's not forget the Oscars have no host this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, boy, this show's really awesome. Shaping up.
This is the same board that now botched the whole host thing. They've botched the new category thing. They've botched what we're moving. This leadership has to go. And I'm not one who likes to sit here and call for people's jobs, because that's a serious thing. But these people have demonstrated an extraordinary incompetence. They have demonstrated an extraordinary incompetence and lack of ability to do this job, and they need to be gone. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on this. But listen, guys, we've got a few other things that we need to talk about here, which are your live topics. You guys have been sending in live questions. We do like, of course, to take as many live questions as we possibly can. And you guys have been firing in a whole bunch of live questions. So without any further ado, Ashley, let's get on to the live questions.
Cool. First one is from Mike Hill. Over under 40%. We see Hulk in the future trailer. Full trailer.
I'll take the over on that. If it's true that the whispers being here that the next one's going to be the Boom trailer, right? Then I do believe you can't do a Boom trailer without Hulk. It's not definite. I wouldn't say 90%, but I'll take the over on. I'll take the over on 40% for sure. What about you, Rob?
Me too. As a matter of fact, I'll give you 100. Of course, you
really,
see Hulk in the
you
trailer.
will go 100.
You have to see Hulk in the trailer.
Yeah, I agree.
Hulk he's got some payback to do.
Yeah, a lot. All right, what's next?
Adam Douglas, Disney, change the narrative, release Frozen 2.
It does kind of seem like that a little bit when you have, you know, your Aladdin trailer come out and everybody's kind of, what? What was that? Hey guys, don't look over there. Look at Frozen 2. And then they put out this epic Frozen 2 trailer. It does feel a little, I got to admit, it does feel a little bit like that. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just does.
You know, yeah, it's look, as long as they're getting the views. I mean, they did get slammed for that Aladdin trailer.
And by the way, but let's not overlook this Frozen 2 trailer looks pretty damn good.
Oh really man, does. The music alone, I was getting all choked up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let it go.
What's next?
I'm on A. Then demonstrate me right now or turn invisible on command so you can get past me. Peter would have made a great parent.
It was a fabulous part of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I absolutely love that part of the movie. And that was a great line in it. So, like, Rob, for you, where does, like, a line like that rank for you amongst the rest of the movie?
It's right up there. I mean, come on. It's great.
Was it your favorite?
I don't know if it was my favorite, but it's great. I mean, the whole concept behind it is just great. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what's next?
Ben Jesus, I don't know what people say. I believe, as you said, John, Aladdin will be great, though I will admit Will's genie does look a little wonky. LOL, Fresh Prince of Blue Air.
I mean, it's true. It does look a little bit wonky. I mean, there's no way around that. It just does, and I can't like completely put my finger on why that's the case. I can't completely put my finger on, you know. It's just, to me, it's in the animation of it. Like, the design, I think, was good. The design, I think, is solid. There's just something wonky about that animation. I just got to believe and keep my fingers crossed and hold out the hope that we're going to see that corrected when we see it in the full movie. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I think I think this movie is going to be pretty delightful.
I agree.
And I think Will Smith, he is a very charismatic actor, a very charismatic screen presence. And I think, you know, once he's unleashed, once we see him, I mean, even his dialogue it was so generic. Like, I wanted him to say something more genie-esque, if that makes any sense.
Still no lines from our main character, no lines from our second character in Jasmine, and one line, 2 spots in, and that's it. All right, what's next?
Pedro Garcia. Hey, John, today is my birthday, and I didn't buy a B-Day cake. I was wondering if you and your crew could sing me happy birthday since you're awesome.
No, not going to do that, because if I sit here and sing happy birthday to you, then everybody's going to start asking. But I will, Pedro, say happy birthday, sir, and I hope you have a great one. Thanks for sending that in, but no, we will not be singing happy birthday.
I'll vote for Pedro, though.
Vote for Pedro. Nice callback. I like that. All right, what's next?
Happy birthday, Pedro. Zabian Carter, my daughters lost their minds watching Frozen trailer.
Dude, I am a grown-ass man, and I pretty much lost my mind watching that. Look, let me say that again. I watched the trailer for the first time, and I was just kind of a little bit taken aback by the fact that it just was not what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
You know, it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then I watched it again, and I'm like, after I got over that little bit of a shock, and then watched it again, I'm like, this is really good. Like, even if this wasn't Frozen 2, let's say this was the first Frozen movie, and that's the first trailer we saw for it, I would have been pretty damn impressed with it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I love that first shot, that overhead shot on the beach.
Oh.
I was like, did I click on the right trailer, or is this an ad?
I did that too, because I thought it was actual footage.
Yeah,
I didn't think that was animation. I'm looking at that water, and I thought, oh, well, is this an ad? You're right. Is this an ad before the trailer?
Yeah.
And then you see, I don't know the names of the girls. Well, they're Elsa and...
Sub-Zero.
Elsa and Sub-Zero. Yeah, I just don't know the names of them. All right, what's next?
Best D14. Place your bets on who's likely to appear in Endgame. $100 on either Ultron, Odin, Ancient One, Red Skull. My money's on Ultron.
Ooh. Well, you know, we had the Ultron discussion the other day. If I had to put, like I was forced to put $100 on either an appearance of Ultron, Odin, Ancient One, Red Skull, I would put it on Ancient One. And again, this is not based on any insider information. I'm just speculating as a fan. I would actually I think Ancient One could have a role to play in this. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I'm going to go even bigger. All of them.
What?
I think we're going to see all of them in this movie.
Wow.
Yep. I think we are.
I'll tell you what, though. The Red Skull appearance in in Infinity War was my one jaw drop. It was literally a jaw drop. Like, because when he popped out and you realized it was Red Skull, my mouth went, and I turned to my wife and she looked at me just with I'm like, that's Red Skull.
Dude.
Like,
I was sitting next to Schnepp. I was sitting next to Schnepp in the theater, and they have this. It's not Hugo Weaving's voice, but it's an incredible sound alike.
Oh my God, is it ever?
And you hear his voice before you see him. Schnepp and I turned to each other, and we were like giggling schoolgirls that were like 5 years old in kindergarten, like oh. And it was just like it was such a great moment, especially because you have no idea it was coming, because we saw it the morning after the premiere. I had no clue. And I mean, I was literally like, somebody injected me with cotton candy. I was like that amped.
I'll tell you what, if Kevin Feige came to me and said, John, just because we like your show so much, we're going to grant you one MCU wish. What is it? My wish would be convince you, back up a truckload of gold bullion and convince Hugo Weaving to come back for one more go as Red Skull, because I loved him as Red Skull. I totally did. All right. What's
Great
next?
hot toy figure of him, too.
Yes.
Willow Yang, John, responding to my chat yesterday. I'm not sure who he's talking about, but John, I'm a woman, and now I've just sent you money to yell at you.
I'm sure there are people all over the world who would love to send money if just for the right to yell at me. I apologize for that, Willow. I can't remember what the comment or the question was, but I deeply apologize for that. And you're Canadian, so I am especially sorry for you. By the way, see the little Canadian tag at the end of the Frozen trailer? Anyway, my apologies, Willow. I shan't make that mistake again.
I've got to say a thank you to Willow, and she knows why. So thank you, Willow.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk off air. All right. What's next?
Zmog Ruler. Hi, Ashley. Tell Christina I said go Mega Force LOL. Yeah, I will. I'll send that to her.
All right. What's next?
Ben Jesus. Just as everyone, I love Coming to America. It's one of those movies you can recite every line throughout the entire movie.
Oh, it just is. It just absolutely is. And, you know, there's again, what we said about Coming to America 2 yesterday was, for those of you who missed it, they have a release date in 2020 for Coming to America 2. The thing is, it passed at a time when they should have done it, which was about 7 years ago. But then so much time has passed, it's like kind of come into a new era of now it's nostalgia. Now it's just pure nostalgia to do it. And I am full agreement with you. This is one you can recite, because Rob, you and I talked yesterday about our love for this movie.
Oh yeah,
right?
You know, and I told you, like, you know, the band Sexual Chocolate, when Eddie Murphy's up there, he's the leader because he plays all the different roles in Coming to America. That always, I mean, that's something I still think about in my mind. You know, that or Soul Glow. There's just things in that. Get your soul glow. I mean, there's just things in that movie that you never forget. And I want to see all of those things come back and play out again. I hope they get all of the cast to come back.
All right.
Everyone.
What's next?
Proddy Iyer, did you see the Frozen 2 trailer? It seems so dark.
Well, I mean, yeah, we were talking about the Frozen 2 trailer, and yes, visually it's dark, but there was some dark stuff. Obviously, it brightened up in a couple of those shots, particularly when they're standing over the valley and the maple leaf is flying and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we went into that in detail already, but yeah. I got to tell you, it's a good trailer. It's a good first trailer. It's a good first trailer because, you know, if this was the second or third, I would be critiquing. You're not giving me, I have no idea what even the movie's about, blah, blah, blah. But for a first trailer, that's okay because it's a first trailer. They showed a lot of tone. And like I said, again, it just had this epic kind of feel to it. So I dug it a lot. All right, what's next?
John Durig. Hi, John and Rob. This May will mark the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 1.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I still remember sitting in my buddy Rodney's computer room and being on his computer and seeing the news, they're making another Star Wars. And Liam Neeson was going to be in it. And like, what? The Liam Neesons? Like, it was crazy. That is nuts, man. 20 years. Can you remember where you were the first time you saw Phantom Menace?
Oh, I can. I went to a press screening. As a matter of fact, I remember it very well. I went to a press screening in Westwood to see it. And we basically had to leave and jump on a plane to go to the Cannes Film Festival because my film Free Enterprise was in the film market.
That's right.
And we were bewildered the entire flight over. Like, what the hell was that? I mean, it was one of these movies where it was so not what I expected. And the trailer was epic. Remember that trailer where
best trailer I've ever seen,
where they're coming out of the fog in the beginning, and oh man,
and the tanks come over the crest of the hill. And
yeah,
best trailer I've ever seen.
It's the greatest. And I was like, this is the greatest. And yet,
yeah.
Wow.
All right, what's next?
Best D14, what's more likely with Tom Holland, since Miles was teased in Homecoming live action team up, or Sinister Six in the next 6 years? Also, wear companion.
Oh yeah, so there was a companion video I was going to do yesterday. My throat was just a little bit sore yesterday. I decided to take a pass. So don't worry, companion videos are coming. Well, since the live action Miles is 0%, that can't happen. So that's 0. I'd say the more likely chance is Sinister Six. I don't think it's a huge chance for either, but it's a 0 on Miles Morales and maybe Sinister Six. What do you think, Rob?
I agree. I mean, maybe the Sinister Six, but yeah, no Miles Morales.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
John Durig, do you think they will have anything at Star Wars Celebration for the Phantom Menace?
Well, you know, when you mentioned the fact that it's the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace, I have a hard. Now, granted, Lucasfilm has been trying to shy away from the prequels a bit, but they had a decent amount of prequel stuff at Star Wars Celebration Orlando. They brought Hayden Christensen out, which was great to see, by the way. So I have a hard time imagining that they wouldn't have something Phantom Menace related. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, I think they will. All right, what's next?
Danny R. Someone pointed out the 4 categories cut for commercials are the ones Disney has no nominees in. I'm not a theorist, but odd coincidence, eh?
Well, not really when you stop to consider the fact that there are a lot of categories that Disney doesn't have a nominee in, right? There are many categories that Disney doesn't have a nominee in, not just those 4. Is it true that those 4 don't have a Disney? Sure, but there are also many others that didn't get selected for that would have been more sense out of that. So I can understand having the conspiracy theorist part of your brain go, wait a minute at that, but then you step back and look at the whole picture. Well, there are a lot of categories without Disney things, and they didn't do that. So I honestly don't think there's stupid decision, but I don't think a nefarious one at this point. All right, what's next?
Tyler Yeats, rewatched Infinity War for the 100th time, and man, I love that opening scene with Thanos and Hulk.
Well, you know what? It just turns out that I happen to know somebody who watched it apparently last night while going to bed. So,
Dude, yeah, I've got to say, every single time I watch that movie, I forget the Hulk is in the opening scene. And it was just like last night, because I'm so, you know, the way Tom Hiddleston is playing it and the way Ebony Maw is talking and then, you know, and then he says, and we have the Hulk. And he comes out of nowhere. And I love, there's this 1-2 shot where Thanos is just beating the Hulk. I mean, just wailing on him. And I'm like, every time it gets me and I've seen it like, what, 100 times now? And I forget that the Hulk's in it every time. And I just love when Thanos is beating the hell out of him because it really looks like he's going to kill him. And it's a brilliant way to establish how fearsome Thanos really is. I mean, You're immediately like, this guy is really, really scary. And it works for me every time.
And by the way, Hulk, as the great Boss Rutan would say, Hulk landed some serious leather. Hulk landed some serious leather on Thanos, and then they go to Ebony Maw, let him have his fun. And you're like, oh, shit, what's about to happen? And it's like, great scene, great scene. All right, what's next?
AK Channel TV, Vader versus Windu, who wins? Also, Anakin had 2 come-to-Jesus moments with Padme on the landing pad and with Luke.
No, the Padme on the landing pad wasn't a come to Jesus moment. That at that point, like he was already gone at that point. The eyes were already yellow. He was already gone. And by the way, he didn't choose to hurt Padme. Like that was just, and he instantly regretted it, right? Like so I would not say that was a come to Jesus moment for Anakin at all. As far as who wins between Anakin and Windu, that's easy. Vader wins that fight. Vader wins that fight 9,999.5 times out of 10,000. And the only reason there's a 0.5 is because maybe Vader took a sick day and stayed home once. I mean, but that's about it. Rob, I don't know. Do you see it?
No, Vader. No, it's not even a contest.
Yeah, I mean, Vader wins that. Easy.
Vader wins.
All right, what's next?
Count Dooku, over under 30%. The Oscars cave and put best cinematography and best editing back into the broadcast.
Great minds, Count Dooku. I'm thinking that's going to happen. The only thing that I think would stop it is this. I believe this is one of the conversations going on right now amongst the Brain Trust at the moment. One of the conversations going on with the Brain Trust right now is somebody mentions, the backlash. We're getting killed over this. We're getting killed. Let's rescind it. And then somebody else says, we are getting killed, but if we do this again, it'll make us look even worse. Like we said, popular film category, and then we backed off on that. If we do it again, it'll make us look even worse. So I think they will relent. I do. I think they'll relent, but because I think there's going to be other voices in the room saying, we can't backtrack again, that maybe there's a possibility they won't. So, Rob, straight up, does the Academy back off on the cinematography and editing thing?
I think they're gonna.
Yeah, me too.
Because they're risking people now not even showing up.
They're risking their own people. They're risking like their own Academy members.
I mean, they've compromised their own the people that are nominated. It's like you nominated them, and then you're like, oh, you're not good enough to be on the broadcast until later. We're gonna edit you down. Like they're gonna edit the editors. like,
There-
like who it's like who watches
there's a irony about that, isn't
who
there?
watches the Watchmen? Who edits the editors? They're going to actually have an editor win an Academy Award, then some Shlomo guy in the booth is going to cut him down, so his commercial time or whatever is cut down during the commercial. I mean,
We need some checks and balances.
yeah, I can't believe that they're going to actually have somebody edit the speech coming out from an editor. It's like, dude, hello.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Stubble McShave. Yesterday I saw Gettysburg, 1993, starring Jeff Bridges, Martin Sheen, and Tom. Is that Tom Bregener?
Tom Berenger, yeah.
Tom Berenger, yeah. It's really good. Now that movie needs an intermission, being 4 hours and 31 minutes long.
I don't remember the 4.5 hour runtime. I just, because it's been a long time since, but I remember loving that thing. Do you remember that?
Yes, but isn't it a miniseries?
I think it was a miniseries made for TV. But if we're in theater, yes, that's something you'd have to have. There's just no getting around it. You have to have them. End of debate. No discussion on that. You have to have it. All right. What's next?
John Harrison, Venom 2 fight idea. Venom versus Dom Toretto. Dom gets badly injured, and then Venom joins with him, and says, "We are family."
If there was any way you could take the one true Mary Sue in movies today, the Dominic Toretto character, and make him even more invincible, I suppose it would be first have him merge with the Venom symbiote, and then have him pilot Optimus Prime like a Gundam. If you did that, maybe you have Dominic Toretto be a little more tough. But then you play the song. I mean, yeah, there you go. All right, what's next?
Alex Perez, I loved Happy Death Day because of the charisma of Jessica Roth. She carries that movie entirely.
I'll tell you what, I fell in love with Jessica. And I don't know if it's Roth or Roth, or I don't know how you pronounce her name, but I fell in love with her because she carried that movie. I mean, it's a great script, perfectly directed and everything too. But if she doesn't carry that film, if she doesn't pull that off, because it's a stupid thing about it, is really a ridiculous premise, right? She's got to get you to buy into it. And if she doesn't get you to buy into it, you're going to have problems. And she did, and it works great. So what do you think about her?
It's delightful. I can't wait to see the sequel. I'm so excited to see this movie. And, I've watched the trailers probably more than I should have, just because the trailers really entertained me. so I can't wait. And by the way, speaking of trailers, this has nothing to do with what we've talked about, but the new Blumhouse movie, Ma, that stars
that trailer dropped this morning just before we started the show. Let's not talk about it till tomorrow, because
I'm in.
let's hold off. Yeah, let's hold off. Yeah, I'm in too. All right, what's next?
Static Space Sean, this is a 3-parter. Hey guys, I hate to bring up negative news, but I use Twitter to stay connected to the movie and sports worlds, but every time I look at trending, there seems to be some witch hunt. Now people are coming after Chris Pratt for being homophobic. As someone who has met him, what are your thoughts? I don't know him personally, but he comes across as extremely likable, and I don't see him having any ill will towards anyone of any race, gender, etc.
No, the whole thing, it's an unfortunate situation. The whole thing with Chris Pratt is really stupid. It's really dumb. Nobody came after Chris Pratt. It's what's the from Juno? What's her name again? Why am I freezing on her name?
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, good Canadian kid, by the way. It's just that the fact that Pratt goes to church, and it was nothing about Pratt. She didn't point out anything about Pratt himself. She just decided, since you go to church, churches by nature are homophobic, therefore you're homophobic. You should be called out for going to church, and blah 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 blah. And to me, that is asinine. That was really stupid. And to go after and start attacking somebody's faith, I think is really pathetic. I think, and I'm a big Ellen Page fan, good Canadian kid, blah, blah, blah. But I think just randomly, for something somebody didn't even do, to go after them, I think that's a below the belt shot. And Chris Pratt gave a very good response to it, by the way. He gave an excellent, excellent response. And yeah, I just think everybody just likes going after somebody now. You just got to go after somebody, whether it's something about them or not. I just think that was asinine. And I think Chris Pratt put a pretty definitive, bold explanation point on it in his response. So if you haven't seen Chris Pratt's response, I would say look at his response, and he handles it pretty much perfectly. And just a gem of a guy, just an absolute gem of a guy. I like him a lot. I know, Rob, did you see the whole thing?
I just saw the controversy brought up, and Chris Pratt he's not ever shied away from the fact that his faith is devout, and that I was watching, he was doing a talk show about his farm and how he's raising wool. He's creating yarn, and they showed him on pictures on, I don't know if it was on Kimmel or something, and the guy seems like an all around pretty good guy, and when we start attacking people because of their faith, I get a little iffy about that, because in this day and age, who isn't going to be attacked now? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, he hasn't done anything egregious. He's just
he did nothing at all.
He's open about his beliefs.
And by the way, I would highly encourage everybody to go and read Chris Pratt's response, because it was pretty bang on the money. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich, saving people, hunting things, the family business. Guess the quote.
Oh, come on. Come on. That is the mantra of Supernatural and the Winchester boys. That's the thing. Saving people, hunting things, the family business. That's the mantra of the Winchester boys, Murray. Come on, man. Although I don't think anybody else is using it, nor should they ever. All right, what's next?
Paul Diego, X-Men into Avengers theory. The snap in Infinity War caused a trauma to the surviving life forms, triggering the mutant gene. This will still allow Magneto and Xavier characters from the civil rights movement now with newly found powers. What do you guys think? Much love and filthy on.
Well, to be honest, Paul, we've taken like a dozen to 5,000 and a dozen questions about people saying, what if the snap and the undoing of the snap brings about the mutants? There are two serious problems with that. Actually, three. Problem number one, narratively, if you really want to get to the core of the X-Men, the whole foundational mythology of the X-Men is that mutants have been around for decades and endured and suffered and a lot of stuff.
Millennia.
I mean, but for the public consciousness, like decades, right? Been around for a while. So that's a major problem. The second major problem you're undertaking is the fact that they made Infinity War without the Fox Disney. And by the way, to this moment, the Fox Disney deal is not complete. Just keep that in mind. The Fox Disney deal is not complete. So they made this movie without there being a Fox Disney deal. So keep that in mind too. The third, and what to me is the biggest problem and is the biggest issue, is I would consider that to be incredibly lazy writing. To say, okay, we have this very nuanced, very complicated, very difficult narrative problem we've got to navigate of bringing supposedly mutants into the pre-existing MCU, right? We've got this narrative problem. To me, it would be the height of laziness for them to go, let's just say the snap created them, or the undoing of the snap just created them. To me, that is very uncharacteristic of a Kevin Feige way of addressing a narrative problem. Now, it's true. Sometimes, hey, keep it simple. I understand that. But this goes beyond. This is not a simple explanation. It's an incredibly lazy one. It's like, well, we can't think of a good way. So, because you could just say, on that logic, you could just say, undoing the snap does anything at all in your universe. Anything at all. Anything goes. And to me, again, Rob, I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, I would be extremely disappointed, both in Kevin Feige and the MCU, if they took such a lazy backdoor approach to try to solve this, what is admittedly a tricky and multidimensional problem of bringing the mutants in. How do you feel about it?
I agree with what you said. I think it's going to be much more organic, whatever they decide to do. And I think, again, it's not like they have waited until the Fox deal was in place before they thought of these things. They've thought about these things, because even when there was no Fox deal, I bet Kevin Feige's like, if we ever could get the X-Men, because they were able to get Spider-Man. So, they have not thought about what it would be like to bring these characters back in the fold. They have a way to do it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Tristan the Blurred. Rosa Parks sat so Martin Luther could walk. Martin Luther walked so Obama could run. And Sean killed Han because he had it coming.
You know what's funny? What is funny is just the other day, I can't remember which page, one of my social media pages, there was an ad for, no, it was on my Amazon account. That's right. One of the suggested items was, and it's one of these things where you had to click on it to blow it up to get a better idea of what it said. Because it was this t-shirt that was being advertised on my Amazon page that said, nah. That's all it was, in quotes, nah. But I couldn't read what it said underneath it, so I clicked on it, and open the bigger thing, and underneath it, dash Rosa Parks. And I'm like, I gotta have that shirt, even if I just frame it and hang it on my wall, because that was a freaking brilliant shirt. And and you're right. Up there with names like Parks and Dr. King and Obama should be Shaw for moving the world forward and getting rid of that car collecting, hair styling, dead weight on the movie scene. Han had it coming.
You know what? I'm not even going to touch that. Great civil rights leaders.
You're right. Completely inappropriate. You're right. I'm not going to deny it.
An Asian dude. Come on. There's so many mixed metaphors here that make me angry.
It's true.
And then it comes out, all these great civil rights leaders and people that stood up for what they believe in all lead to the death of one of the coolest movie characters ever.
So it was all marching towards Robert.
Oh man!
No, you're doing exactly what I should have done and not touched that one. I should have not touched that one.
I'm angry now.
But I couldn't resist.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
All right, what's next?
Perfect. I'm upset. What's worse, the internship or unfinished business?
I'm going to go unfinished business, mostly because I thought the internship wasn't great, but it had upside. You know what? I'll go so far as to say I don't think the internship was terrible. I don't. So I'll give that one a pass. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I'll give it a pass. Why not?
Sure. All right. What's next?
Chi-Town rules 09. A lot of misses by the Oscars lately, but perfect idea for having a trailer. I also expect a ticket announcement and the cast to be there. Hype is real.
There was some talk. Let's not forget, there was some talk. Reports came out a while ago that the Oscars were going to try to get the cast of the Avengers to individually host different segments throughout because they're going to have a lot of different mini hosts during mini segments throughout the proceedings. And there were reports that maybe they're going to do that with Avengers. Again, that would kind of fit in perfectly with the notion of them dropping the Endgame trailer, the boom trailer as we're calling it, and it would do a lot to promote the film and hype up the Oscars. So it seems like that's more of a credible. I still have no idea if that's true, but it does seem to gain more credibility when you think about it. Rob, what do you think?
Well, why don't they just do a whole show about Endgame and forget the actual Oscars and just have every character? They'll interview everybody. They'll have the Russo brothers on. They'll have Kevin Feige on. Then they'll have each, because the cast is huge. So if you want to get people to really tune in, just make a 3-hour show about the making of Endgame, and you could cover all of the disciplines. Like, here's the editorial staff of Endgame. Here's how we cut the movie, and have the editorial staff of Endgame give out the editing award. And then we have all the actors awards given out by various people. The Russo brothers would give out Best Director, and just turn the whole Oscar ceremony into this awesome 3-hour thing about Endgame and give out the awards kind of during that. I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, I don't think they should do that. The Oscars should stay about the Oscars, but there are elements of what you're saying that I think are a pretty decent idea. I think there are elements of that that are pretty damn good, and it'll be interesting to see how much they take it over. Because if they did that to a degree, everybody's just going to say, well, Disney now owns the Oscars, and they shouldn't do that kind of stuff, and blah, 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 blah. So it would be I don't know, but we've seen stranger things. All right, what's next?
I do love watching the making of Game of Thrones after each episode. But
that's true. That's right? Really neat. I loved when they started doing that. That was a great idea.
Maya, Demi. But John, I was catching up on shows from last week. You were wondering why Russell Crowe wasn't nominated for Beautiful Mind. He was. Lost to Denzel.
Was he, though? I'm not sure that he was. Let me pull that up. Because I remember going, wait a second, why wasn't Russell Crowe nominated for Best Actor for that? And let me pull it up here. So listed under his awards are, what did I say? Beautiful Mind? Oh, okay, he was nominated for Beautiful Mind. All right, I stand correct, because I thought I looked it up and he wasn't nominated. Maybe I was talking about another movie, but he was great in A Beautiful Mind. By the way, one of the most tragically underrated films ever of all time. And Russell Crowe should have been nominated for Best Actor, but I think that was around the time when he was just making an ass of himself all the time, and people started getting kind of negative on Russell Crowe. Cinderella Man. Cinderella Man is a fabulous movie, an absolutely fabulous movie, and Russell Crowe should have been nominated for that one as well, but I just think everybody was sick and tired of Russell Crowe at that point. All right, what's next?
Evil Broomstick. For long movies, couldn't theaters just offer some showtimes with an intermission and some without? Same way you can choose to see a movie in 3D or 2D.
Now you're complicating it a little bit too much. Now it's like, okay, now you can choose this or this. And now if you choose this, you have two different options. And if you choose this, so now you're going to have 3D or 2D. Great. And now, if you select 3D, do you want intermission 3D or non-intermission 3D? That you chose 2D. Would you like intermission 2D or non-intermission 2D? And if you you chose non-intermission 2D, would you like high air conditioning in the theater or medium air conditioning in the theater? Now all of a sudden, you got to split your movie up into 4 different theaters, 2D or 3D, and then the option of intermission or non-intermission for each. Now you got 4 theaters eaten up with one thing. So it's taking it too far. It's taking it too far. I just say have a principle. Movies over 2 hours and 25 minutes have a 7-minute intermission. Movies that are under that, which are most movies that are under that, no intermission. Like if you're going to do it, I think that's the only way to do it. I don't think this, let's create 7 different layers of options and things like that. Like Rob, I think like you're not for the intermission thing, but I think you and I started to find some common ground down. And if a movie exceeded a certain length, then just make that the guiding principle, not other things, right? Or how did you see that?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, to me, it's all filmmaker driven. If the filmmakers want to do that, it suddenly becomes a fashion, where you're going to put intermissions in longer movies, as long as they have a hand in doing it. I wouldn't want somebody who works at a theater, to willy-nilly go, here's where the intermission is. Yeah. But apparently some people do, because we've heard from other people, for our foreign viewers, that sometimes that's the case. And I'd be curious to see how that works. Like, is there a fade out? Does it just cut to black? I mean, who makes that decision?
Interesting. All right. What's next?
Murray Reich. Report. Joe Flacco going to the Broncos.
Oh, really? I was wondering about that. Look, I'll tell you right now. I don't think Joe Flacco was the quarterback of the future for the Ravens at all. But in that final game, oh, you're damn right they should have brought him in. They were losing. They were getting their asses handed to them. You have a former Super Bowl MVP there, and you didn't bring him in. I'm glad he's getting. I'm not a big Joe Flacco fan. I'm not. But he deserves another shot at something. And, oh, my God, the Broncos need help at quarterback. So good for them. All right, what's next?
Householder Films. Beware the Moon, David.
Oh, that's from American Werewolf in London.
Stick to the roads.
Stick to the roads. Are we on the road? Oh, I love American Werewolf in London so much. All right, what's next?
JCL Productions. How did you and Robert first meet? Did you like him and click right away? Same with Ashley. How do you know when the chemistry is right?
Well, Robert and I met when John Schnepp actually brought him in to be a guest on our comic book show that I had created. And yeah, we clicked. And we did the show the first time, and I remember me and Schnepp talked about him. I was like, no, man, he's got really good flow. He's got really good flow and blah, blah, blah. And, at the end of the day, Robert and I probably did hundreds of episodes together.
Yeah, we did a lot. No, and I mean, it was fun. The great thing is that I thought you, Schnepp, and I we all had different energies. And it was fun to do the show with the two of you. Because John, the thing that was so fun about John Schnepp was that you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth.
True.
He would do characters, and he would do funny voices and have funny punchlines, and you kept it real. You kept it serious, and I liked how you were more business, like you talk about the business of filmmaking, which is what I like to do. And then I was kind of in the middle, and it was so much fun doing the show with the three of you guys. But yeah, we did it for over a year. And then you and I we participated in the Schmodown together. We won.
Yes.
We won Team Heroes together on the Schmodown. And no, it was sort of a logical extension. And I was really happy after John passed, because I was not in a good place when you called me up with the suggestion, maybe we could do the Weekly Hero together and then this show. So I think it's been fun, and having Ashley has been great too. It's been great.
Yeah, Ashley, I was looking for somebody to come in, and I was interviewing people, and I met some really nice people. But Ashley came in, and honestly, it was just all about the Dunder Mifflin shirt. She was wearing an office shirt, and it's like, well, this is the person I want to hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what chemistry comes down to. It's like if you just want to be talking to people on or off air, you're just, you care about people's opinions, and then if your humor jives and everything else, and if everyone has a different something about them to share, then it works,
All right, what's next?
Curtis Lopez. I never thought you could make Frozen badass, but Disney did it. Elsa trying to freeze the ocean waves. Anna pulling out a sword. Damn.
Oh, yeah, that last little shot.
Yeah, that was cool.
Pulling out the sword was pretty damn cool. Robert, like, if you had to talk about what you thought was like the main thing, the defining thing to you, why you like the trailer, how would you describe that?
It was freezing the wave, the crest of the wave, and then the wave breaks off and falls on her. I was like, that's really cool. You know, because I love the ocean. I love being in the ocean. And, you know, you think, oh, she's going to get out where she's going. You know, and this giant wave comes, she freezes it, and then the wave cracks in mid-crest and falls on her. I'm like, that's rad. I don't know why. I like that whole image.
Yeah,
you know, because
I thought they did a great job with that.
It's like in James Cameron's The Abyss, the long version, when the aliens stop the giant tsunami wave right as it's mid-crest. You know, it's like action figures that have chairs. I love seeing waves stopped in mid-crest. I don't know. It's just a thing.
What's next?
Word of the day. Zach Remsburg. Rob, thank you for mentioning Operation Mindcrime yesterday. Saw Jeff Tate live in Seattle for the anniversary tour last year. One of the best albums.
Rob, what do you think?
Okay, if you guys don't have Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, what's wrong with you? I mean, it's truly one of the great records. And Queensryche is a Seattle band, so you know you can't be. And Queensryche is not grunge. You know, it's funny. I mean, anyway, I could go on and on about. Plus, Operation Mindcrime might be the greatest title for a record of all time. So,
all right, saying. What's next?
Sierra Douglas. My top pick for 007:25 theme song is Lana Del Rey. Nice.
I have no pick. Rob, do you?
I think it's good. I mean, I'm a huge James Bond theme song fanatic. As a matter of fact, I don't care what anyone says. Another Way to Die from Quantum of Solace by Jack White and Alicia Keys is one of my favorite Bond songs. People say, it's terrible. It's awesome. But Lana Del Rey could knock one out of the park.
All right, what's next?
Mr. Hero 17. Do you think the MCU will ever do a Civil War 2 now that they have Captain Marvel? Have you read the Civil War 2 story?
Yeah, I don't think Civil War 2, like, first of all, remember, the first Civil War movie was nothing like the story in the comic book. Like, It was nothing. There were a few themes from it, sure, but it was not like the comic book at all. The comic of Civil War 2 with Captain Marvel in there, that doesn't fit into the MCU.
No.
It just doesn't.
But
now, could you do one and call it Civil War 2 and borrow a couple of elements from it? Yes, that's what they did with the first one, but I can't see a straight-up adaptation, Rob.
No, I can't either, but I do like the DNA of Civil War, where you had Iron Man pitted against, you know, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. That conflict was where they got that from the Civil War comic.
Yeah.
I could see Captain Marvel's, the conflict that happens in Civil War 2, they could draw upon that idea with Carol Danvers and with Captain Marvel in the MCU, but it wouldn't be anything like the comic, but it could have the same DNA.
Yeah, so it would be its namesake, but pretty much that's it. I mean, with some of the concepts like you're saying. All right, what's next?
Nosferatu, The Black Cauldron, or The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Which Disney movie is darkest to you? In my opinion, it's Hunchback based on the dark subject matter.
I'll tell you what, there are moments in The Hunchback of Notre Dame that are like, they let kids watch this?
Yeah, I know.
Like the song when the villain is singing about, like, he's horny for the girl and he wants to burn her. Like, he's singing about burning her alive and all this kind of stuff. Like, you're letting kids see this? So I'm going to agree. I'm going to go Hunchback as the darker one. What do you think?
I do too. I think so too. The Black Cauldron's more fantasy, whereas the Hunchback is dealing with more real world concerns. And it is, like you said, dark. It is dark.
All right. What's next?
Mr. Hero 17, do you think the MCU will redo the Symbiote saga with Tom Holland's Spider-Man? I would love to see how this Spider-Man acts in the black suit.
No, zero chance. Absolutely zero chance of that. They're going to keep their live action stuff that they have in the one separate from what they have in the other, and what they have in the animated in one, what they have in the animated in the other. So until someday that Sony and Marvel sign a new deal to cross everything over, zero chance.
Yeah, Rob? I agree.
All right, what's next?
Luis Francisco Contreras. Hey guys, Big Bang Theory is ending and I hope it is better than 2.5 Men finale. I really hate that ending. Do you watch any of those shows?
Nope. I don't like Big Bang. I've watched 5 or 6 episodes, and I just found it be people who don't understand anything about geek culture trying to write a show about geek culture.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's to me, it's almost like the Big Bang Theory is what people thought about geeks 20, 30 years ago. Even though I do like the actors, and I think the cast is very talented, and I have tuned in and chuckled a few times, but yeah, not a fan. And
I don't think I've ever saw an episode of 2.5 Men.
No, me neither.
I've seen like one episode of both of them, and yeah, I don't know. I appreciate Sheldon. I mean, that dialogue that they give him is pretty crazy. He nails it performance wise.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I just can't get into either of those. It's just
I mean, have you guys seen the Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg show Spaced?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, Spaced is my Big Bang Theory. That's what I like.
That's another Robert Meyer Burnett T-shirt. Spaced is my Big Bang Theory. That's a great T-shirt that needs to be made.
Big Bang Theory. Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen, guys. We are an hour and a half in, but you know what? We're not in the studio today, so we got time. Rob and Ash, you got some time to just keep going here and take some more questions?
Yeah, we can do a couple more for sure.
Okay, then let's keep on rolling. What's next?
Johnny 5, some of my favorite cinematography is in the Black Stallion, the island desert scenes, and Race to the End are brilliant. You feel like you're there.
Absolutely agree.
That was Caleb Deschanel, who we brought up earlier in the show.
The cinematographer.
Yeah, who also shot the right stuff.
It is a gorgeously shot film. Absolutely, that's a great one to bring up, Johnny 5. Love that one. All right, what's next?
Denmar 95, greetings from Austria. My favorite romance in superhero films is between Batman and Catwoman in Batman Returns. It is so beautiful and tragic. Have a nice day.
You know, I've got to go. I infamously do not like romances in my comic book movies. I don't like them at all, but there are a couple that are exceptions. One of them is absolutely Tony Pepper. There's something about the Tony and Pepper relationship that I just find tangible. I just really do. I love the banter between the two of them. I love the nature of the relationship between them. I love that Tony, who's used to being in charge of everything, she will push him around like he doesn't know what to do with. I love that. And I also really like the Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Peter Gwen relationship. I thought that one was really good. And anything redeeming about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came from their chemistry together. What do you think, Rob?
No, I agree. I agree. But I got to go back to his original point. The Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer romance. I mean, the S&M psychosexual nature of it all. I mean, it was, to me, the other romances are sweet and good natured, whereas Batman and Catwoman, these are both crazy, whacked out people in certain ways, and I can only imagine how hot it gets in their boudoir, and my kind of romance, if you know what I'm saying.
All right.
Yeah, I will tell you, I might get killed for saying this, but I think Vision and Scarlet Witch is a snooze romance. I'm like, ugh, like most boring couple to me ever. Rob, do you disagree with that?
Well, I like them. I mean, I like because I read the comics, but and I think it's interesting because they've gone all in on that romance. Like suddenly they're shacked up together in Europe, and it was like, where'd that happen? How'd that happen?
Yeah, give me some crazy like Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
He is a giant sex toy. He's a machine. He's a robot. He's a giant sex toy. Fun to watch.
But he's really well dressed.
Very well dressed, yes, and with a great smooth English voice.
And a great cape. He's got a great cape.
All right, what's next?
Shane Venus. I liked Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury, but I still think they should have cast William Shatner. His version of Bohemian Rhapsody is the GOAT.
By the way,
what say you, Robert?
His Bohemian Rhapsody is great. He does a bunch of cover songs, and he was great. That's great. But it's not that Queen. Come on.
All right, what's next?
Absent good. Just seen the trailer for Ma, starring Octavia Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
It looks creepy and off the wall, and she looks awesome. She's one of my favorite actors. What do you think?
I'm going to want to go into it more tomorrow, but I'll just say this. One of the most intriguing things about it is that it's directed by Tate Taylor, who also directed her in The Help, one of the most awesome movies of the last number of years. I loved The Help. And so they worked some magic together in that. This is a very different movie from The Help, but Octavia Spencer, in my opinion, can do no wrong. So I cannot wait to see this. But we'll talk about more in depth. But your initial reactions, obviously, Rob, were really good too.
Dude, I love the trailer. I love the premise. I'll let everybody else go discover that for themselves. But I'm so in.
All right, what's next?
Jacob Ibarra. Hey, John. So everyone is always talking about how Warner Brothers needs to hurry up with MOS 2, but I'm always wondering how they would do it. The first was easy because it started the DCEU. You need big Earth threatening villains like Brainiac or Darkseid for DC's most powerful superhero to go up against. So how do you make a solo Superman movie now?
I think there are many ways to do it. I think most importantly,
heroes in the DCEU. That's the last.
I think the most important thing though is you make it character centric. You start with character. Don't worry about we need the big blah blah. That's not where you start. That's how you make bad movies. You start with how do we make this character centric? What is Kal-El's main issue in this thing? And it can't just be fight the bad guy. That can't be. That's a weak movie. And I think that's one of the things that was so great about the first Man of Steel was that it wasn't. I mean, Zod came later. We had Clark facing challenges his whole life. And in that movie, he had specific challenges in the movie along the way as well before he ever had to come across Zod. And that's what makes that movie so special to me. So in doing the second, again, the bigger question isn't who's your bad guy. That's not good filmmaking. The thing is, what's his challenge? Aside from the supervillain. And then you can do anything you want with the villain. I mean, there's lots of people you can bring in. The comics have created many foils over the years for Superman to fight and who can give him a little bit of a run for his money. And you can come up with that as well. But to me, it's about starting with what's our story? What's our story? Not who's our big bad guy and our big villain. Rob, what do you think?
I completely agree. Look, one of my favorite Superman stories in recent years was there's a moment where Clark Kent really wants to go to Europe to cover this event. And Perry White says, okay, you can do it, but you're kind of on the outs with me. So you have to cover these 3 really mundane stories, like a supermarket opening throughout the day. And if you turn in these 3 stories by the end of the day, you can go to Europe. Well, of course, all hell breaks loose in Metropolis, and he can't finish any of the stories, and he doesn't get, because as Clark Kent, he's still a good reporter. And then at the end of the day, Lois filed the stories for him because she knew they were married, and she knew what he was going through. And it was this great thing about this relationship that Superman Clark Kal-El had with Lois, and it was about how much they care about each other and have each other's backs. And I'm like, that you could spend a half an hour in a Superman movie retelling that story before the big bad shows up, and it could be wonderful. But everybody, it's hard. Like, how many world-destroying entities does Superman have to take on? Because what else are you going to do with him? So it's tough to make a good Superman script.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what's next?
Louis Francisco. So glad I can watch the show live from work again.
We're so glad you can join us, Louis. I really appreciate having you here. All right, what's next?
Zachary Buckler. What books would you like to see turned into a movie or TV show? I'm very excited at the possibility of Wheel of Time if it ever happens.
I've said it 1,000 times. I want to see Shogun, and there have been many, many talks about getting Shogun going back again, and different things. It was a great miniseries, fabulous book by James Clavell. That's the one I'd like to see. Rob?
They just it was being made. The remake was being made.
I heard all that kind of stuff.
They just put it down. Dude, I love Shogun. The Shogun miniseries is one of my favorite things that's ever been on TV. But, I've said this once, I'll say it again. Our genre audience is not going to like this, but Donna Tartt's book, The Secret History, her first novel that she wrote before.
You've mentioned that one before.
It's one of my favorite books of recent years, and it has nothing to do with science fiction, fantasy, and horror, but I would love to see Scott Rudin pick that up and somebody like David Fincher directing it.
I would see, have you guys ever heard of Night Film?
No.
It's a book by Marsha Pizzell. It's a murder mystery thriller, and it's based on this insidious director who, and it revolves around the death, suspicious suicide of his daughter, and then a detective trying to figure out what happens. But there's lots of, it almost reads like a movie. So
I love good whodunits. I love good whodunits. That's always cool.
Night Film.
All right, what's next?
Lee Cameron. First time I watched AIW, Avengers Infinity War, I felt so disappointed. On every rewatch, it gets better. My favorite superhero movie now. Weird how things have changed over time.
Well, you know what, Lee? Like I've told this story before about, for me, it was my experience like that was Inglourious Bastards. Just didn't like. I hated it. I hated it. And then I watched it a second time and I'm like, what? Why did I hate this? What? Why, this movie's awesome, and it's now my favorite Quentin Tarantino film.
I felt that way about The Talented Mr. Ripley. I hated it when I first saw it.
I did too. And then I saw it a second time and I hated it even more.
Oh man, I love that movie now.
I know a lot of people that love it too. A lot of people really, really like that film. But I'll admit to you too, I really enjoyed Infinity War. But the issues I have with Infinity War, they try to do too much in the movie. They've packed a little bit too much into it, and you could feel the top heaviness of the film. That stood out to me most the first time I saw it. After I saw it for the first time, though, I knew that was what was there. And then when I watched it a subsequent time, then it's like, okay, now I can just enjoy the parts that I like. And I'm not worried about the top heaviness, too many characters, too many sub-storylines, not spending enough time on this. Because really, when you think about it, at the end of the day, they don't really, Captain America gets very little screen time.
Right.
And really, at the end of the day, Iron Man doesn't get all that much screen time either. The Guardians don't get all that much screen time. I mean, it's really spread across. And I thought it's because they tried to pump in too much. But I really noticed that the first time I saw it, it got less and less the more times I saw it. So, Rob, I think you're like me. You just like the movie more and more every time you see it, right?
Yeah, but I loved it the first time I saw it because to me it really captured, and I'm struck by this every time I watch the movie, like last night. I'm struck by how it really captures the feel of what it was like to read a big superhero knockdown, drag out crossover. It captures that feel, that opening scene when you see the Asgardians. They're decimated, and Ebony Maw is introduced walking over the corpses of various Asgardians. And then the scene builds and suddenly, you're Thor and Loki and Thanos and the entire Black Order. And you're watching this stuff and from scene to scene to scene. Then you go and you see Iron Man and Wong and Doctor Strange and Hulk. And then Spider-Man and then there's a huge fight. I love that movie so much, and I think it's the most comic booky of every. The Batman movies, the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, are kind of not comic booky at all. If that's, can I say comic booky? But Infinity War might be the most comic booky of any comic book movie ever made, and that's why I love it so much.
All right, let's take.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's important to see movies twice sometimes, just because when you first sit down, you're watching it and we just can't shut off our brains to judgment. And, we're analyzing every little thing. We're thinking about how the actor actually looks, or like, who knows? So if you see it again, you catch so much more for any film, really. All
right, let's take 3 more questions and we'll call it a day.
Ryan Trabucco. With no Oscar host, there is no 10-minute monologue at the beginning, no subsequent 5-minute comedy bits, running gags, etc. There should be ample time saved to present those 4 categories. # time management.
No, that's not true at all. I mean, you're talking about a movie that a show that sometimes will clock in close to 4 hours. And hey, guess what? Just because there's no host doing an opening 5 or 10-minute monologue doesn't mean they won't have somebody doing some kind of opening 5 or 10-minute dialogue. Just because you don't have a host doing a couple of comedy bits 5 minutes long doesn't mean they won't have one of the little sub-hosts throughout the show doing that little bit. And even if you took all that out, that doesn't cut out enough time. That just doesn't come out enough time. I agree with the Academy's decision to move some categories to present during commercial breaks. I do. I just have an issue with which ones they chose. That's the asinine part to me. Rob?
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's the Oscars. Well, when they're taking away major categories, to me, it's like, why put on the show then? Like it should be about the awards first. And I understand people are like saying to me, "Well, don't you understand it's about commercial time?" Yes, I do. I understand it's about commercial time, but first and foremost, it's like you wouldn't say, you know what, the Super Bowl, we're only going to show some of the plays. We're not going to come back from commercial time and be in the middle. Like, oh, you just missed the game-winning touchdown. Sorry, because we had to cut away to a commercial. That's never going to happen because they allow the game to run as long as it's going to run. They should just do that with the Oscars. I understand they want to make it shorter, but make the telecast better. Don't cut the awards.
The problem, though, Rob, is that your big award comes last, the one that everybody's tuning in to see. And you can't ask the public to tune in for 4 hours and sit around until the final one, which, by the way, on the East Coast starts getting real late. Really. I mean, so I am fully in agreement. Look, it shouldn't be 3 hours. I mean, there should be no problem making it 3 hours. 3 hours is a fucking long time.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a problem making it 3 hours. Again, it's just that you got to show some discernment and some wisdom as to where do we take that time from. You know, like I love your analogy about the football game, Robert, because you don't go, hey, we need to shorten the Super Bowl. Okay, let's take out the fourth quarter.
Right.
What? You can't take out the fourth quarter. Maybe take out officials' timeouts. Maybe take one timeout away from each team. Instead of 3, they have 2. That fundamentally changes the game. But hey, that's one. You can't take out the fourth quarter.
Take out the halftime show.
Take out the freaking halftime show. How about that? I don't know.
That's why the song numbers. Like, why do you have to have song numbers? The people that write the songs, what's so funny to me about the best song in the Oscar category is they weren't even on set. You know, they're writing that stuff. They're not even part of the production. Sometimes they use, you know, the songs. It's not great that they're great songs, but that was, I think that was even added just to give some pizzazz to the original show. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first Oscars were given for the 1927. It was Wings in something like that won the best. I don't remember, but there was no best song category back in the day because movies were silent.
By the way, so it always builds up to the final trophy of the night, which is Best Actor, correct?
No, Best Picture.
Best Picture.
Best Picture. It goes Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Picture.
And
Best Director,
sometimes Best Actress, Best Actor, Picture. Sometimes Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Picture. But always, and the director gets in there. So
okay.
Yeah.
I will retract my following comments then.
All right. Last 2 questions.
BAG Studios. How do test screenings select viewers? Sign me up.
It's pretty simple. There are organizations you can sign up with, like Movie View and stuff like that, and then you sign up with them, and then you'll get invitations in the mail to show up to things and blah blah blah, and they'll do a little bit of vetting. You just got to find the organization. By the way, I don't know that they'll have, depending on where you live, I don't know if they'll have test screenings where you live. So it's a little bit of a thing, and then they'll vet you. And I don't know if you really want to be a test screener because you're putting your life on the line. I mean, basically, because you ever accidentally peep something about it, they're going to sue you out of existence. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things. All right, what's next? Final question of the day.
Last one, little nerdy birdie. Over under 35% Endgame grosses under $2 billion at box office.
Okay, I'll say this. I think it will gross $2 billion, but 35% is too low of a number. I will take the over 35% chance that it makes under $2 billion. I still think it will. I'm not saying it's over, I'm not saying the 50%, but 35 is a low line. I'm going to take over 35%. Rob?
Me too. Like I said, I think it's going to do 2.5.
Well,
if it's great.
The question is 35% that Endgame grosses under $2 billion. So you think there's a greater? You're going to take the under on 35%.
No, yeah, it's going to gross over $2 billion.
Yeah, I can't see it.
But I say that thinking it's going to surpass what Infinity War did. I've gone all in. My expectations are all in. My hopes and dreams are all in. As a matter of fact, if this movie isn't good, I might leave the business. I might put my tail between my legs, go home to Seattle, and start working in retail for the rest of my life. That's how invested in this movie I am.
I think it's going to be good, and I think it's going to. I think it has a very good shot of meeting, maybe even exceeding. I just have a hard time believing it'll make everything that Infinity War made and make $500 million
I told you, I'm going all in.
That. I don't know. It kind of reminds me, I remember doing some Star Wars shows, and when The Phantom Menace was coming out, everybody's saying, this is going to beat Avatar. And I kept saying, no, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. It could get $2 billion, but Avatar's $2.7 billion. I don't know. We'll have to. Hey, I hope it does. I hope it does. So
look, I mean, I'm thinking that this movie, there's going to be like the second coming of Jesus and Avengers Endgame. Like there's only the return of Christ to the earthly plane, could be the only thing that I could see of as being better than Avengers Endgame. And I really hope the movie lives up to my expectations.
I do too, man. I do too. All right, guys. That will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. For everybody who still had questions to come from Cameron and all the way down, don't worry. I'm going to take those questions that we didn't have time for, and I'm going to add them to this upcoming companion video. So you will see your questions answered in the next companion video too. Keep your eyes open for it. It will be answered. I want to thank, of course, the people joining me. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work. And I want to thank you, John, for joining my live chat last night and giving me a super chat.
I just love hearing Robert Meyer Burnett talk about fun stuff. Also joining us, of course, is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at AshTech1, or my Instagram is my name, Ashley Whalen.
And you guys can, of course, just follow me on Instagram or on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's John Campea, and until next time,